I'm telling you guys, this is the future of keto. All right, Mediterranean keto is where it is turning. We can only live for so long seeing people eat a bunch of cheeses, a bunch of low quality, dirty keto foods. Okay, this is the future, Mediterranean keto. And now there's some science and some research that shows it in practical applications. So I'm gonna break down a study that was published in the Journal of Medicine and Food. Okay, talks about a full-on Mediterranean ketogenic diet, which I have talked about in a number of videos. And later on in this video, I'll reference some of those, but I have them down in the description as well. So full ketogenic meal plans for the Mediterranean diet, but also just general breakdowns. So we wanna look at the Mediterranean keto diet as it relates to metabolic syndrome, getting unhealthy people healthy. Because the thing is, the ketogenic diet gets a bad rap. It gets this stigma that because it's high fat, it's going to be so terrible. It's so hard to get the layperson to understand that the ketogenic diet, yes, is high in fats, but it is going to actually alter them in so many different ways and it makes them healthier. So let's break down this study. But first, I do want to make sure you hit that red subscribe button, hit that bell icon to turn on notifications, and please do check out Thrive Market down below in the description. They're a huge sponsor of this channel and they make these videos possible so you can get my groceries at my prices, really awesome stuff down below in the description. All right, so this study took a look at 22 obese subjects with metabolic syndrome. Okay, metabolic syndrome being a classification of a lot of different things, which we'll talk about in a second. But these subjects had a BMI on average of 36 or higher. So fairly overweight individuals with metabolic syndrome. Now, it was a 12-week study. And what they wanted to do is they said, okay, for 12 weeks, you're gonna eat this Mediterranean style keto diet. Now, they called it a Spanish Mediterranean keto diet, but that's just because the study was conducted out of Spain, and quite frankly, it all works together. So they had them eat specific things, which we'll touch on later in the video. But first, I wanna go ahead and give you what the actual results were, because the general side of this is it's pretty easy. For 12 weeks, they ate a Mediterranean keto diet, which will be defined a little bit later. But here's the results. After 12 weeks, their LDL levels went from 126 down to 103. After just 3 months, that's remarkable. Their weight went on average from 106 kilograms down to 91 kilograms. We're talking 15 kilograms lost in 3 months on a Mediterranean keto diet. Plasma glucose went from 118 fasting down to 91. Okay, that's basically taking someone that essentially is diabetic and not making them diabetic, at least on paper. That is phenomenal. Then the big one, triglycerides, 224 all the way down to 109. That is over a 50% reduction in triglycerides. Now, triglycerides are the storage form of fat, right, before it's really utilized. So that means that we're reducing that available fat. We are truly changing the human body when we see triglycerides being reduced that much. That alone is phenomenal, let alone all the other biomarkers. So in essence, by definition, all of the subjects were able to get rid of their metabolic syndrome just by doing 12 weeks of a Mediterranean keto diet. Now, there was a little bit of criteria with this. Okay, the subjects, for example, could not have a history of a lot of exercise. So they had to be people that were relatively sedentary. And they do this for good reason. Okay, they want people to be all the same. They don't want to have a lot of variables. If you take someone that has metabolic syndrome that's exercising a lot versus someone that has metabolic syndrome that isn't exercising a lot, their chemistry and their physiology is going to be radically different between the two of them, simply because one person has just more efficient mitochondria, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, they wanted sedentary people. They wanted people that were just generally unhealthy with metabolic syndrome so that they could get the idea. The other thing that they had to do is they had to check their ketone levels and make sure they were in ketosis every morning. Okay? And they had phone consults with people that were facilitating the study to make sure that they were within that range. And quite honestly, if they weren't following it and they weren't getting into ketosis, they were removed from the study. And the reason that they did that is because they want to make sure that if some random person decides to have bread, it doesn't blow the study for everybody else. They want people that are strict and are actually remaining in ketosis, so it truly is a measure of the Mediterranean ketogenic diet. Now we get to the fun stuff. What was incorporated in this diet? Because I'm sure this is what a lot of you are wondering. Okay, what did they eat? Because I want to eat this. Well, they incorporated 30 milliliters of olive oil. That's largely what made it a Mediterranean keto diet. The large part of their fats were coming from omega-3s from fish and olive oil. So 30 milliliters of olive oil split up 3 times evenly throughout the day. 10 milliliters with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, pretty high amounts of olive oil, which most people, at least in the Western world, are not really using. So first order of business, get that olive oil into the equation in your diet. Secondly, they ate a bunch of omega-3s from fish. Okay, so they actually divided their diet into what they called fish block days and lean meat days. So about 4 times per week, they had them eat only specific fish. As long as the fish was not a predatory large fish like swordfish, they were allowed to eat whatever they wanted in the way of fish. So they could have salmon, they could have mackerel, they could have sardines, anchovies, you name it, as long as it wasn't a large predatory fish. Now here's what's really cool. This was an unlimited calorie diet. By being an unlimited calorie diet, it just literally means they could eat as many calories as they wanted to. The only stipulation was that they couldn't exceed 30 grams of carbohydrates coming from vegetables generally, usually leafy greens. The point was eat as many calories as you want, just don't exceed this number of carbohydrates. This simulates what is called a free living condition. And it really simulates, okay, if we were to just indoctrinate this kind of eating pattern for these people, and they were just to go through daily life, eat as much as they normally would, then this is what would happen. They're not saying eat X amount of calories because that's way too clinical and it's not a free living condition. And here's the one that a lot of you guys are gonna like. They consume between 200 and 400 milliliters of red wine per day as well. Okay, so 100 to 200 milliliters with lunch and 100 to 200 milliliters with dinner. They were allowed to have their red wine because that truly is part of a Mediterranean diet and still had the phenomenal results that we saw. Of course, they weren't able to have any kind of trans fats. They weren't able to have margarine, anything like that. That's kind of a given. Now let's jump back to the protein blocks again. Okay, so 4 times per week, they were consuming these fish blocks. Now on the fish block days where they were consuming things like salmon and mackerel and stuff like that, on average, they ended up taking in about 14 to 15 grams of omega-3s from their diet. That is a lot. Okay, if you were to put that into any kind of comparison, that's like taking 14 or 15 fish oil pills per day. Okay, you're not generally getting that much omega-3 in your diet. So the point is, even on the days where they weren't supplementing, they were just eating high-fat fish, they were getting a huge amount of omega-3s, which clearly affected their blood markers. Now, on the days that they weren't able to eat the fish, on the regular protein block days where they were eating the cheeses, they were eating the lean meats, they were eating the eggs, shellfish, things like that, they supplemented with 9 grams of salmon oil 3 times per day. So they made a concerted effort to keep those omega-3s exceptionally high. Guys, this just comes as a tremendous argument to make sure that you're getting your omega-3s in and to make sure you're getting that high oleic acid content that you're getting from olive oil. Okay, remember, I've talked about in other videos that oleic acid converts into oleoethanolamine. That is a powerful thing when it comes down to converting the right kind of, or converting the bad kind of fat into the good kind of fat that elevates our core body temperature. The point is, we need to be investigating this further. Okay, the Mediterranean keto diet is the future of keto. If we want the mainstream to get on board with this, we need to promote this more. So I have full videos that give you the meal plan. So they're down in the description, Mediterranean Keto Diet meal plans, and then I have another video there that breaks down a little bit more of an introduction to Mediterranean keto, since this was more of a breakdown of just the study in general that outlines it. Now, again, please do check out Thrive Market down below in the description. They have Mediterranean keto options that I've put in my keto and fasting bundle boxes there. So do check them out down below in the description, and appreciate you guys being loyal to this channel, being loyal to our sponsors, and as always, I will see you in the next video.